Hi everyone, welcome back to the final installment of this mini series. God, is that you? My name is Luann, and thank you so much for subscribing and being a part of my channel. If you're new here, please subscribe, like this video, and leave a comment. That's going to help me so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I want to talk about the third thing that I do that helps me to hear from God and helps me to know for sure if that's God's voice. And from the title, you would know that that's fasting. Fasting is one of those things that really cleans the wax out of your ear, so want of a better expression. It really helps you to move away from the noise and really hear God's voice. Because remember, in our very first video we talked about God being a still small voice, so you got to get away from the noise. God's nudges is sometimes so quiet and so subtle. It'll be like, I was thinking I should have done that, and you didn't do it. And sometimes that could have been God saying that, but he's very gentle. He's very very quiet, so you have to be really in tune to hear God. And it's a very spiritual process. So fasting is something that's very spiritual, and it gets you very spiritually alert and aware when it comes to God's voice. So fasting is basically abstinence from food. So that's the original concept of fasting. I think over the years it has evolved to where we now fast from things that bring us a lot of pleasure, which I think is fine as well, because the idea of it is really to come away from something that you think you need for sustenance in order to hear from God, who is your true sustenance. So obviously we need food to live. So we decide, okay, we're not going to eat for a period of time so that we can hear from God. And we're also probably deciding to fast from social media. I'm coming off Facebook, coming off Instagram for a couple of days, and using the time that I would use to scroll on social media to hear from God. So fasting is one of those ways when you're feeling just really crowded and overwhelmed and you're not sure what's going on, you're not sure what to do. Fasting is one of the main ways to just kind of reset. So I definitely suggest fasting. Fasting has been a part of my lifestyle since I was a teenager. We were introduced to fasting in our church that we grew up in, and it's one of the things that I'm most thankful for, right? To be able to fast. I remember my mom fasting, and one thing that stood out to me with my mom fasting, when we would come home after school or wherever we went and we came home and my mom had been fasting that day, when you came into the home, there was just a presence, just a peace. It was just beautiful. And those are my memories of fasting. So I've made that, since becoming an adult, I've made fasting a part of my life, and it's really been one of the ways that helps me to reset every single time. So if you're new to fasting, you can try a fast where you're just abstaining from food, and maybe you're drinking water and juices and things like that. So on your first try, you can do a fast like that. Maybe take the day and say, okay, I'm just drinking water and juices today, and using the time to read the word, to journal, to pray. You're coming off social media and you're just coming away from all the noise in order to hear from God. As you develop a taste and a discipline for fasting, you can go for longer periods and you can try different types of fast. There's a Daniel fast, which is normally a 21-day fast where it's no meat and I think no sweets as well. That's also a great one. I do that once a year also. You have what some people call the Esther fast, which is a 3-day fast where there's no food. So that's also a great one. And what fasting does is that it brings answers. So when you're fasting, there must be something specific that you are fasting for. Whether you're fasting, God, I want to be able to hear your voice more, or I'm fasting today because God, I want to know, I want to hear from you. Should I take this job? Should I go in this direction? Should I do this? Should I do that? God, I'm fasting today because my mom is not well, and I'm just spending the day praying for you for her healing and things like that. So get something specific when you are fasting, and you bring that and present it before the Lord, and watch what God will do for you. Fasting is that thing that brings answers. God will tell you, okay, do this, do that, don't do this, say that, don't do this. Forgive them. That's a big thing that always comes up from fasting. Sometimes we think fasting will, manipulate something in our favor, when what it really does is it changes us from the inside out. We become better from the inside out, and God will show us how to become better by telling us what to do. And it'll make all the difference in life. Sometimes one word from God would just change everything in your life. And I have experienced that. I remember I was in my business, I was having a really slow, it was slow. It was just slow. I wasn't having a lot of students, and it was just difficult. And I spent some time in fasting to God. I think I went on a 3-day fast. This was in 2020. I went on a 3-day fast to just hear from God. And God just said, lower your price. And I said, okay, great. And he gave me the figure, $300. I lowered my course, set it at $300, advertised, and I got 200 students. Can you believe it? It's a little more than 200 students, actually. 200 students. It's the most students I had ever had. Prior to that, I would have like 10 students, So God is just amazing. If you spend time with God, he'll give you one little idea, and that'll make all the difference in your world, right? So there you go. Fasting. It's a game changer. I couldn't think of my life without fasting. So I hope you enjoyed this mini series. Let me know what you think. Drop something in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. I try to respond to all my comments as we grew. Thank you so much. Look out for more great content from this channel. Thank you for all your support. Bye.